Elon Musk, the one behind the brain chip, has your social security number. Is it as scary as it sounds? Elon Musk is just a player in the world stage. So let's break this down. Vatican owns the whole world currency. And who are the bankers to the Vatican? The Rothschilds. Red child, east to west red. You see the bottom? Babylonian money, magic slave system. We broke covenant. They took our lands and we became bond servants. And the 400 years is up. So they know that these contracts, they can't hold us anymore. So what they do, they're going to scare you into getting into the new one, which is the cryptocurrency blockchain future. And the bottom, it says Nazi world order. I'm going to share a couple of videos that I posted about 3 years ago that shows you how the Social Security and the birth certificate leads to Rome, to the Vatican. Because the man was given a number, and without this number, you cannot buy or sell. I also been including 2 videos on the District of Columbia, and as you can see, Francis is the holder of all our lands. Canada, South America, and North America. And the 400 years is up and the lands are returning to us. That's the reason that Trump is going after not only the Latinos, but also the Native Americans, because they want to do away with us because they don't want to return our lands to us. And I came across this headline today, Utah, because Utah is the real Jerusalem. The true Holy Land is in Utah. And Utah happens to be the beehive state, because Abba said that he would take us to the land flowing with milk and honey. They're also in Haiti, which is there means that they're in the islands as well, because that was a territory of the Granadas, which they also took from us and colonized it as well. So this is an image that I made of a video about 3 years ago. So pardon the watermark because Clapper leaves watermarks. So it explains right here that this is the connecting of the body to machine, the connecting of your consciousness. And who's behind it? Well, Bill Gates, the one behind the you know what. And it has a patent number. As you can see, the patent number is 060606. And another thing, they work with fear, the spirit of fear, to get you to do what they want you to do. And another thing that I want to add to this is that they're all Jesuits, and Jesuits are soldiers to the Pope. All U.S. presidents are Jesuits. The Pope is the Holy See, the all-seeing eye. They call him Pope because Pope means father. There are 2 fathers. There's Abba, Yah, our father, Yahuwah, and then there's Pope, the Pope. So that his name is Pope because it means father. So you choose the father that you want to follow.
I stumbled my way in, and what I found was a secretive Christian organization called The Family that had been hiding in plain sight for over 80 years.
This was a group with tentacles around the world.
A humble example of leadership that the world has never seen.
A breathtaking enmeshment of church and state.
There were congressmen, senators, world leaders.
and they say it's about faith, but there's a shared understanding that what we're really about here is power.
I'd like to single out Doug Coe.
Doug Coe and all of his associates, I'm grateful.
Doug Coe is the longtime leader of the family.
He's the most powerful man in Washington you've never heard of.
He said the more invisible you can make your organization, the more influence it will have.
Jesus plus nothing. It's a powerful thing.
Using the National Prayer Breakfast, they dispatch representatives to build relationships with foreign leaders. That is exactly the kind of meeting that I would want to exploit. For the family, Jesus says you must go to those who are in positions of power.
God always uses imperfect vessels to do his perfect work. President Trump's an imperfect vessel. Jesus is the answer, but Jesus in capital L don't mix.
Because we want our family to stay together.
Catholic Church, this is not what I was referring to, but this is correct. What I was referring to was around the 1100s during Alexios III's reign, the Catholic Church implemented something that was blood purity. Anyone who was Anglo-Christian was pure blood. Literally everyone else was impure and they were worthy of death. That was the Crusades. But the document of discovery of 1493, this was the Catholic decree that said any Christian that looked like me had the rightful claim of any and all land and waterways in the world. It basically says that all indigenous people are not human. And this is still in effect today. So the Catholic Church believes that if you are black or brown, you are not human. The Catholic Church believes that all land and water belongs to the Anglo-Christian man. And yet how many of us allies and accomplices are still Christians? Learn up.
Why it's named the District of Columbia, quote, Little Rome by the Jesuits of Vatican origin. Jesuit John Carroll was probably the richest man in America in the late 1700s. Carroll allowed funding to construct D.C., which is nicknamed, quote, Rome on the Potomac, end quote. In fact, Wikipedia and the Catholic Encyclopedia confirm Washington, D.C.'s original name as Rome, Maryland. A branch of the Potomac River was called Tiber after a river in Rome. Owner of the land used to be Francis Pope. Get it? Pope Francis. And his priest was Jesuit Andrew White. Like Rome, Washington, D.C. has 7 hills, whose names are Capitol Hill, Meridian Hill, Floral Hills, Forest Hills, Hillbrook, Hillcrest, and Knox Hill. Daniel Carroll owned land in D.C., along with Roman Catholic Pierre Lefont, who was part of the creation of Washington, D.C., the architect of
It's called UCC, Uniform Commercial Code. It's the Bible of business on the earth. Uniform Commercial Code. Uniform Commercial Code is based directly on Vatican canon law, on the Roman canon law. Consequently, when a ship pulls into port, it pulls in and stops in its berth. The ship is now in its berth. Because it is on the law of the high seas, or commercial maritime, UCC commercial law rules the seas. So when the ship pulls into its berth, the first thing the captain must do is to present a certificate of manifest to the port authorities, which means that the port authorities need to know how much is on the ship that you're bringing into our country and our economy. How many TVs, how many cars, whatever you're bringing, how much you're bringing into our economy. So you have to have a certificate of manifest of what is the value of your ship here. What are you doing? Consequently, when you are born, you come out of your mother's water. Therefore, you must have a birth certificate, a certificate of manifest, because you are a corporation-owned item. You are a human resource. This goes back to the German Nazi concept that every human coming out of their mother's water must be birthed. And therefore you have to have a certificate of manifest to see how much this individual is going to make for us in our new world order. I'm telling you that until you understand the laws, the symbols, the emblems, what these words mean, you're never going to suspect how far gone we really are. Did you know, for instance, that your birth certificate is a security on the stock exchange in the New York stock market? Did you know that? Because if you order your birth certificate, get a new one. Order your birth certificate. It'll only cost you, sometimes it's free. It'll only cost you a few dollars. Order your birth certificate. On your birth certificate, all birth certificates in this country, on the bottom, it will tell you this is printed on security papers. Do not accept it, not on full-color security paper. Then on the right-hand corner, you will always have a series of numbers, red numbers, printed on the birth certificate. Those numbers are a security stock exchange number on the World Stock Exchange. You go to any good stock office and ask them, check these numbers in your computer and see how much your stock is worth, the certificate. And they will check it on the New York Stock Exchange and find you.
Was to tell you that one of the companies in Washington that attorney set up is a medical coding research company. What if I told you Obamacare was set up for one reason and one reason only, and that's to traffic children? Obamacare. It's the only reason it was set up. What if I told you that they invested so much money, they built 3 supercomputers in the university in Austin, Texas, that a mother can go to her gynecologist, find out that she's pregnant, and the moment he puts in the code, the child traffickers are following that mother, their pregnancy. They know whether she's going to get an abortion, whether she has a live birth. They follow the kid through the first few years of school. They know if it's got blonde hair, blue eyes, or red hair, green eyes, or whatever. And what if they got blood type, DNA, all your medical records? So Obamacare coding system removed doctor-patient confidentiality from the United States and the world. Don't think it just happened here. It happened all over the world in every United Nations country when that was passed. We started it. So it's a 5-digit coding system with over 80,000 codes. We call it medical kidnapping in this country. I have parents that have walked into Phoenix Children's Hospital, and they can be up there talking to their doctor. Their doctor writes stuff down in his notes. He hands it to the medical coding expert in his office. She takes it, she puts it in the computer. CPS and the Superior Court of Arizona leases space in the basement of the hospital. A red flag pops up on the CPS agent's computer down there. She has every medical record, the home address, the parent's name, everything. She can cut, paste, put it on her documents, an order to remove, walk it next door to the judge, have him sign it, get in the elevator, be upstairs within 5 minutes taking the child.
On what ground?
Whatever they want to think up. Yeah.
I heard they lease space in every hospital.
They do.
What?
Every hospital.
The third city-state was officially created in 1982. That city-state is called the District of Columbia and is located on 10 square miles of land in the heart of Washington. The District of Columbia flies its own flag and has its own independent constitution. Although geographically separate, the city-states of London, the Vatican, and the District of Columbia are one interlocking empire called Empire of the City. The flag of Washington's District of Columbia has 3 red stars, one for each city-state in the 3-city empire. This corporate empire of 3 city-states controls the world economically through London's inner city, militarily through the District of Columbia, and spiritually through the Vatican. The Constitution for the District of Columbia operates under a tyrannical Roman law known as Lex Fori, which bears no resemblance to the U.S. Constitution. When Congress passed the Act of 1871, it created a separate corporate government for the District of Columbia. This treasonous act allowed the District of Columbia to operate as a corporation outside the original Constitution of the United States and outside of the best interests of American citizens. A sobering study of the signed treaties and charters between Britain and the United States exposes a shocking truth. The United States has always been, and still is, a British Crown colony. King James I was famous not for just changing the Bible into the King James Version, but for signing the first Charter of Virginia in 1606. That charter granted America's British forefathers a license to settle and colonize America. The charter also guaranteed that future kings and queens of England would have sovereign authority over all the citizens and colonized land in America stolen from the Indians. After America declared its independence from Great Britain, the Treaty of 1783 was signed. That treaty specifically identifies the King of England as the Prince of the United States and contradicts the belief that America won the War of Independence. Although King George III of England gave up most of his claims over his American colonies, he kept his right to continue receiving payment for his business venture of colonizing America. If America had really won the War of Independence, they would never have agreed to pay debts and reparations to the King of England. When Congress passed the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the U.S. President was made subservient to the King of England. The 13th Amendment is called the Title of Nobility Amendment and forbids U.S. presidents and their officials from using royal titles like king or prince or baron.
And no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Me atom, which is man, 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. So the number of man is 666. So let's stop fearing this number, guys. The dragon summons a religious cheerleader to lead the people of the land into the worship of the beast of the sea. And that, guys, is the Pope. In the beginning of the book of Revelations, it tells you that they went off and they killed people who refused to worship the image or the beast. And that happened already. That happened during the Inquisition. And it isn't like it's not going to happen again. For people to have employment, healthcare, school, what do you need? You need 2 things. You need a birth certificate and Social Security. No surprise to me, the Germans were the first ones to come up with the Social Security system. And who came up with the birth certificate? Your birth certificate is a slave contract with the Vatican in Rome. For the full video, you could go to YouTube. This is the title of the video.
Know that you are a slave to the Roman Empire since your birth. Your birth certificate is a contract with Rome, which basically declares you dead and lost at sea. We will dig into the history of these trusts that was created back in the 13th century and has enslaved all humanity on the earth ever since. Unum Sanctum is one of the most frightening documents of history, and the most quoted is the primary document of the popes claiming the global power. In 1302, Pope Boniface issued his infamous papal bull Unum Sanctum, the first express trust. He claimed control over the whole planet, which made him king of the world. Furthermore, we declare, we proclaim, we define that it is absolutely necessary for salvation that every human creature be subject to the Roman Pontiff. Unum Sanctum, His Holiness Pope Boniface VIII, November 18, 1302. It is not only the first trust deed in history, but also the largest trust ever conceived, as it claims the whole planet and everything on it, conveyed in trust. In celebration of the trust, he commissioned a gold-plated headdress in the shape of a pine cone, with an elaborate crown at its base. The pine cone is an ancient symbol of fertility and one traditionally associated with Baal, as well as the cult of Cybele. It also represents the pineal gland in the center of our brains. Crystalline in nature, which allows us access to source, hence the 13-foot-tall pine cone in Vatican Square. Pope Boniface VIII was the first leader in history to create the concept of a trust, but the first testamentary trust, through a deed and will creating a deceased estate, was created by Pope Nicholas V in 1455, through the papal bull Romanus Pontifex. This is only one of 3 papal bulls to include the line with the incipit, for a perpetual remembrance. This bull had the effect of conveying the right of use of the land, as real property, from the express trust Unum Sanctum, to the control of the pontiff and his successors in perpetuity. Hence, all land is claimed as crown land. This first crown is represented by the first Sestui. This first crown is represented by the first Sestui Qvi trust, created when a child is born. It deprives us of all beneficial entitlements and rights on the land.
Altogether, they're 3 crowns. Go to YouTube and watch it. I highly recommend it. Why do you think that they said that young and old will have a mark? And without it, you can buy or sell. Without either a birth certificate or a social security, you can't go to school, work, or obtain a bank account. And we'll be leaving paper currency soon.
What if I told you it was completely unnecessary to give birth in a hospital for most women? People have been conditioned to believe that we need a doctor's help to heal ourselves or to even give birth. Do you want to know where that conditioning comes from? In the early 1900s, the Rockefeller Foundation saw an opportunity to get a lot of profit and control. So what did they do? They criminalized midwives. They criminalized healers. They told everyone that if you did not have a medical license, you could not practice healing in any sense of the word. Who gave out those medical licenses? Of course it was them. They formulated what we now call medicine in the United States. Total and utter control over our bodies, over our birth, over our death, everything. If I told you how sovereign we really are and how spiritual we really are and how spiritual birth really is, you'd be blown away. And then you got to ask yourself the question, why would they want control over such things?
The reason they criminalized it is because they have no control of the babies that were being born. No way to document them and put them on birth certificate, give them social security. And for those that don't know, the Pope is referred to as the Holy See, the all-seeing eye. The dragon sermons a religious cheerleader to lead the people of the land into the worship of the beast from the sea and to worship his image. Remember, guys, it's Joshua HaMashiach. He was hung on a tree and he is not a white man. He's from the tribe of Judah, and the tribe of Judah is black. And it's interesting to me how it went from the Targum, which was the Hebrew Bible, or the Torah, or it was also referred to the book of the law. And I lay open the book of the law within the heathen has sought to paint the likeness of their images. Again, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth. To Bible, that sounds very similar to Babel, as in the Tower at Babel. And do you know that Beyonce has a church where her own Bible that she calls the Bible? Beyonce and the Hebrew Bible. And just a reminder, guys, the Vatican means divining serpent. And I also recommend that you pull up this video as well. And in it, you see them worshiping Lucifer and their son Christ. Like I explained before, it's not Christ. If anything, you should be calling him Emmanuel because it's in the scripture, which means God with us. Thank you for watching. Pray for the sermon and be blessed.